The next 20 minutes or thereabouts is purely development. It is something I've only just started. It is something that I am nowhere near good at, etc. But I would just thought I would share this with you if others want to start looking at it. Because there's been, well, not so much recently, but in previous years on the group, there's been an awful lot of talk between SketchUp and Fusion, and between add-ins and what's available and what's not available. So I thought I'd have a look at Fusion add-ins, and I thought it can't be that difficult to make add-ins or scripts of your own. After all, it's only Python language, that can't be that bad. Albeit it's some 30 years since I used Python. I thought I must have some brain cells left. But what I found out in doing it is that Python in itself is straightforward. Now, don't misunderstand me. It's a programming language, and for some that means confusion. But it's not a difficult language in that sense. What is becoming a real pain in the butt is the Fusion API, which seems to be extremely fussy. So whilst for example, a particular syntax in Python works if you leave an extra space or whatever it is, it seems that sometimes the Fusion API doesn't like this and it gets very awkward. So I've been playing about with doing some scripting language, which I'll share with you tonight how far I've got. And then, you can say whether you want to pursue this with some more stuff later on. So I'm sharing my screen, hopefully, yes. If I go into add-ins, and I'll open up one I've already got in at the moment, which is this BrickArch here. I'll go into how to do the scripts and the add-ins in a moment, but that's what I've got in. So BrickArch created successfully, and there it is. And that's from a script with no drawing by me at all. And of course now, you can go into Solid and do what you like with it, extrude it, etc. and create your arch. So I thought, right, well, that's not a bad start actually. And I can show you that when I find it again. Hang on a moment. Let's bring, and there's the script that does that. So you can, we're working with the API of Fusion by putting in these various commands. I'm not going to go through this in detail tonight. And then you've got your dialog boxes, etc., and your various sizes and the maths that draws it all up. Relatively straightforward. But I thought, well, that's not a lot of good, because what we really want is to put some dimensions in. So we went one stage further then, and let's just go back again into utilities, scripts. And with scripts, you've got to go in this way, and you can go in, and we'll do the BrickArch. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Let's go back again. I knew I'd get these the wrong way round. Utilities, add-ins, that one there, and it's the brickwork. So this time now we've got a bit of a dialog box. So we can type in an inner radius, which I'll explain in a moment, the brick thickness, the brick depth, an angle, and the number of bricks. And then, having set that up, and we press OK, it will generate the arch for us, which is there. The dimensions of it is, that is the outer radius, as it were, and then you've got the brick width and the brick depth and so forth. I'm not going to go into too much detail of working out the measurements at this moment. It's just to perhaps introduce you and show you what you can end up doing with some script language. So I thought, well, that's not bad. I'm quite pleased with that, really. It's not a bad arch, really. because otherwise drawing that, as you know, would mean taking your center point, drawing a wedge-shaped brick, multiplying it round, so on and so forth. So that was okay. And we progressed from the sketch arch to an arch where we put in dialogue, albeit I found the difficulty, or one of the difficulties with it, is that if you the dialogue figures that you end up putting in a dialogue box need to match what you're drawing in, otherwise what comes back from the script can be a totally different size to what you're expecting. More on that later if we need it. So I thought, let's take this one stage further. So let's just get rid of that one again. And this time, because I went and I thought, this is a pain in the neck going down the scripts all the time. So I thought, let's give an add-in and try an add-in. So let's go from check off the scripts and put on the add-ins. And I've got an add-in here called, where's it gone? Brick Arch Keystone. And I'm going to run it. And I hope this works. And nothing seems to have happened. But if I go now into Solid and create, I have it down here. Brick arch with brick columns. So I can now click on that and I get this very nice dialog box which comes up with the overall external span. I'll explain those. I put some help things in here. So that's the total width of the arch outside to outside. Then we got the height of the arch. That's the height from the center point of the arch to the top of the arch, as it were. Then you've got the arch face, length of brick used in each arch, in the arch. You've got the depth of the brick in the arch. You've got a mortar gap coming in. You can then define whether you want to define the number of bricks in the arch or the brick width in the arch. If you want the number of bricks, you put in the number of bricks you want. If you put the brick width, then you have to decide the brick width. And the brick width gets a bit of a mathematical thing because, of course, the brick width, because they're tapered bricks, the brick width is really the width at the center of the brick, not the top or bottom, as it were. It has the ability to put a keystone in this one, and you can have the keystone set to be a scaled of the brick that you put in, and also the extra thickness, which is the amount of the keystone sticks below the other bricks in the arch. You can then extrude the bricks or leave it unchecked if you just want the sketch. You can have a single body, and I'll come back to that one in a moment, and you can add brick columns. So we'll add brick columns, and the brick columns, you can define the column height and the column height of the bricks on there. It takes a bit of getting used to as what sizes you use, but we'll leave the defaults in there and click OK. And somewhere is our brick arch. Whoops. Whoop. And that's what's produced. Switch off the bodies and you've got the sketches somewhere. There they are. So you can see what's happened is that if I go back to the bodies, the keystone, we put a factor of 1.4 in, so it's the same ratio as the bricks in the arch, but it's that much wider, and that depth below that 1 millimeter drop is that one. And then we've got the bits on the side. Come on, spin round. Now, the problem with this one, and it is a problem with Fusion, and that's where that one body one, which is not yet working, if I just go back quickly so we can see what we've got here. That one body I've got in there, but when I do that one, all it will produce is one body. So if I just go into a fresh sketch a moment, and we'll leave the same things as they are, and I'll go single body. And what it's done, it just creates it's still not a single body. And the reason for that is because fundamentally Fusion can't do it. If you have a sketch of parts that are not joined together, Fusion can't make them one body. They can only make them one body if the parts have a joining within their sketch. That's something I've got to work on. So the idea being that the sketch will have to create semicircles, etc., to create a background, if you like, because Sketch is not capable of doing it in that way. You can, of course, combine the lot together and do a combine command to bring them back that way, but you're still keeping individual bodies. Now, to quickly run through the sketch for that one, which is there. So you can see on the sketch for this one, you've got the various commands here which are specifying the span, the rise. The rise, by the way, is the rise of the arch from there to the center point there. So the rise of the arch is from there to there. The span is there. So if, as you can see on here, if the total height of the arch is usually 50% of the span, and that gives you a nice concentric arch. If you wanted a flatter arch, for example, then we could make that, I don't know, something like 6 millimeters, and of course that would flatten the arch in a flat one rather than a semicircular one. Where's my file gone again? There it is. So this does all our setting up. Then we have the maths bit, which does all the arch geometry and creating the bricks, etc., and the arch bricks down here. And you can see there we used a lot of geometry in there to create what we want. And then we got the columns in there and the extrusion commands. And then down here at the end is the easy part of creating the dialog box. And you can see there on that one there, that's the dialog box for the span. And it's got a default value in it, and also then the tooltip that you can put in as well as you want to. And then you've got the run command at the bottom and a stop command at the very end, a little bit like an SQL database, that when you're using an SQL database, it's always good policy to disconnect from the database before you close down. And the same with any Fusion add-ins. You're better off stopping the command at the end of using it rather than just leaving it floating around. So very quickly, how do you get to this stage? Well, as I say, the add-in can create an add-in down here. I'm not sure you can create an add-in with a run-only command. There might be a way. I haven't got to that far yet. As I say, this is early days. But if you go into add-ins, and then you can go into scripts and add-ins, and we'll say the first thing, we're going to create a new script. So it doesn't matter. All this box does is so you can determine they're all add-ins. They're all scripts. It's just so you can find them. That's everything all merged together. To create a new one, it's clicking that. And you can either download it from another device or create a new one. So you create a new one. And then you can have a script or add-in. And you write its name. And it will save it, in the case of Windows, in your user file, the app data. And you burrow through to find the Autodesk and the scripts file. If it's the add-in file, it will be in the add-in files, which I may have here. So here's my Autodesk Fusion 360. Here's the script file, and that was the brick arch, which is that one there. And you have two files in there which are important. Brick arch, the py, which is the Python file, and the manifest file. That just gives you some control parameters, which is automatically generated. In the add-ins, they're in a separate folder up here. So there's the brick arch one there. You can see I've got a number of versions here where I've been playing around with it and got to the stage which I'm at the moment. Nowhere near finished, but what it's proved to me is that you can do brickwork and other things, of course. So going back to my original starting point with this, which is there, is my plan now is to write a script file for this brickwork. Because if you look at this brickwork, it's not random in the sense as there is no brick occupying two layers. There's different thickness layers, but there's not a square brick that occupies two layers. So I can't see, I think it's going to be a fairly easy script to do, to lay a layer of bricks at a certain height, at a random length between, say, length A and length B, to lay that layer, and then automatically go to the next layer, which has a slightly different random thickness with the same effect. And that should be a script that hopefully will generate this pattern of bricks quite easily.